My sexual market value is a 10 because I got messages from Michael B. Jordan and Tyga on Instagram. Therefore, I'm a 10. But can she get any one of these men to commit to her? And you ask her and she's like, no, but I've been engaged 5 times. Like, no, that's not being engaged 5 times is not a flex. I've said this before. That's the issue. It is the highest status man you can get to commit to you long term. And I hear a lot of women just fooling themselves thinking that that's what's going on.
Created a generation of narcissistic women. And what's happened is the rise of social media and the rise of online dating and the rise of feminism has taught women that they are not to blame for any poor choices. Every poor choice is glamorized. So if you want to be a sex worker, it's great. If you want to post in bikini pictures online, it's fine. If you want to be with it, every poor choice is glamorized. And every internal reflection is seen as gaslighting yourself. So they've even got terms for internal reflection to prevent it happening. And so what will happen is they are trained to not reflect on themselves because we've been told we've been oppressed for so many years. Now it's time to make sure we project. And so we don't take any accountability. And as a result, when we get into relationships, if we don't feel completely soothed all the time, he must be a narcissist. He must be a manipulator. He must be gaslighting. He, rather than I. And unfortunately, we've got an online market that caters to that wounded woman, that caters to that entitled woman, and caters to that narcissistic woman. And it's so wild to me that so many women talk about narcissism, but the society today is just catering to narcissistic women.
It's not all narcissism, and women are not all feminists, especially sex workers.
I feel like women shouldn't have to dim their light and like shelter themselves, like to be able to feel free, you know? So like nowadays, everybody wants like a typical housewife or whatever. I feel like you should be able to live in like your true form self, you know? So narcissistic women or whatever, I just feel like, I don't know. I can't come up with the words right now.
Because it's like we're creating boundaries and we're not putting up with
right. Like we shouldn't have to dim our light.
Bare minimum.
And then like men, they can definitely be narcissistic just because like they have their ego. So like for women, I feel like it's not payback, but like it's our time now. Like, right. You know, we have Kamala Harris about to, you know, be... You know,
our first chat if you guys are excited for our first female president. Are you guys excited for that? We will change. What is it? What is her slogan? It's like now, forever, and whatever she said. Did anybody see that video of Kamala Harris at the P. Diddy party with Montel Jordan? Anybody see that video? That's fucking hilarious. But our first female president, guys. I'm super excited.
She's at the age where her tubes are drying out, obviously.
So
it's like menopause. No.
Yeah, that too.
Can you imagine having all the nuclear codes and you're having hot flashes like it's in the news?
Maybe. What do you think about what Sadia Khan said? I'm just curious.
We know what we're getting into. Like when I got out of
I don't believe a lot of girls know what they're getting into. I mean, you did. But most content creators on OnlyFans right now are making $20 a week. So like most of them didn't do any of that. Brian Terabin on, and he was talking about the idea that Schopenhauer said one time. He goes that it is the brothel that protects the chastity of the fine lady. It's kind of a weird way to look at it, right? It's almost like the wave upon which it breaks. Now, the thing though that she did say that I do agree with is that women making mistakes, they are not held accountable. And I absolutely believe that this is true. I believe that there's this feeling online where it's just like you do whatever you want, regardless of whether or not sex work or not. Cardi B robbing a motherfucker, drugging him and then stealing from him is glorified. That's the issue that I'm talking about. When you go out there, you see the videos where they pop the balloon for these men and then they end up later on 40 years old and they can't find anyone to commit to them. One really, really great thing, if you guys want to check out my interview with Orion Terabin that I did, came out this last Wednesday, he said that a man's sexual market value cannot be lower than whatever woman is willing to commit to him long term. Sounds fair. A woman's sexual market value, though, is defined by whatever man is willing to commit to her long term. And it doesn't make any difference. Your market value is never determined by you. The S&P 500 does not dictate its own market value, nor does the price of Amazon stock. The market tells you what your price is. And so because of that, what happens often is you'll have a woman and she will receive tons of attention because of her physical attractiveness. And from that thing, my sexual market value is a 10 because I got messages from Michael B. Jordan and Tyga on Instagram. Therefore, I'm a 10. But can she get any one of these men to commit to her? And you ask her and she's like, no, but I've been engaged 5 times. Like, no, that's not being engaged 5 times times is not a flex. I've said this before. That's the issue. It is the highest status man you can get to commit to you long term. And I hear a lot of women just fooling themselves thinking that that's what's going on. And in that, I do agree with the concept that what she says before, it's like you're being glamorized for sometimes when you make bad decisions. When men make bad decisions, when we're poor or broke or fat, we're told so, and we just go to the gym. We do something about it. We rarely complain about it. We're told frequently that we can't bench press enough, that we don't have enough money, or that we're too short, or whatever the thing is. And men, we just like, you don't see us in the comments. We just go to the gym. We go try to fix the problem. What do you think, man?
I would say the female thing is like everybody says to Lizzo, they're like, oh, you're so brave. But if you tell somebody that they look like Lizzo, they get offended.
Yeah, so there's one video where they ask a bunch of women, do you think Lizzo's pretty? All the women say she's beautiful. And then they tell the last woman, say, hey, did you know you look like Lizzo? And she punches him. She punches him. Well, no, but what are we doing? Well, hold on, what are we doing though? We're glorifying Lizzo's bad decision to have not to have a caloric deficit, to have a caloric excess, to become overweight, and then to glorify that. That's the problem. We're not holding her accountable like we hold men accountable. That's the problem. If you're a man and you have a 9-to-5 job, you are held accountable every single day. If you're a beautiful woman, sometimes you are, sometimes you're not. And that's the issue. And so we're glorifying in cases, what Sadia Khan is saying specifically is that, well, by the way, I would say the same thing about an athlete, an actor, a celebrity, or a very, very good looking man. I would say the same thing. We glorify his bad mistakes as well. But for the most part, I agree with what she's saying is that we are we do not hold women accountable whenever they make really bad decisions. Okay. Now the part about sex work, if you want to say that's a bad decision, that's up to you. I know a bunch of girls who do sex work and they're very happy with it. They don't want a man. They never want to get married, and they're totally fine with the situation they're in. What did you say?
Well, I was going to say we tend to overdiagnose narcissism. That's another thing.
Oh, yeah,
it's like that's the first thing out of anyone's mouth is like, oh, we broke up. He's a narcissist, right? Like, he wasn't a narcissist when you met him.
It's magical that all of a sudden he turns into a narcissist after she stops him.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean,
before that, he was like, guys that always turn into losers after the relationship is over. Yeah. He was never a loser when she was
or guys like
but girls are always psychopaths after the man's already triggered her and brought her past.
She's a crazy bitch.
We definitely demonize. We throw these words around it because we don't know what they mean. Like I would say the antisocial personality disorder, which would be a psychopath, is about 3% of the population, and a narcissist is about 4.5% of the population. Borderline personality disorder is about 5.5% of the population, but borderline and narcissist combined, so about 40% of people with borderline are also narcissists. So 100% of people with antisocial personality disorder they have NPD. If you have ASPD or antisocial personality disorder, you also have NPD 100% of the time.
Well, then when you listen to like Sadia Khan, it's like she makes it sound like it's endemic. Like this is like it's this plague of narcissism but she's spreading across the U.S.
I like her, and she has a sexy accent, so anything she says, I'll just agree with that.
She's not a real psychologist.
I think though why people say there's no people taking accountability is because they taking out consequence out of school and families. That's why people don't take accountability.
Now, here's the thing. Part of it is like there's no accountability because there doesn't need to be. We're so far away from a survival scenario. You guys can do whatever you want. Like the part that always bothers me is when I go on some of these shows and the guys act like there's any chance we're getting rid of homeless. We're getting rid of birth control. We're never getting rid of it. I'm not even concerned with that. But my whole thing is what I want, because of the people who come on this show, and I love you guys, is that I would like everyone to have their eyes open and say, hey, what is the likelihood if I keep down this path that I'm going to get what I want in the future? If all you care about is the bag, then maybe this is the right path for you. Do what my home girl Tucci Cash, what does she do? She makes a ton of money and she buys a bunch of rental properties and she owns half the Airbnbs on the west side of the city, right? She owns a bunch of property. She's decided that the bag is worth more to her. Good for her. That's her. My homegirl, Nora Ford, same thing. She's trying to make that bag. My friend Nicolette Shea, trying to make that bag. That's the decision that they made. Yeah, exactly. Super
happy,
fun.
Healthy, wealthy.
Right. But if you go into that and say, hey, I want this, but at the same time, it's like I want to have sex on camera, but at the same time, I want a man who's totally fine with that. That's going to limit. I'm not saying you can't find anyone. There's so many dudes out there. What I am going to say, though, it will limit the men that are going to want to commit to you long term. This is something, if you listen to Riley Reid, is that her name? Mm-hmm. She was talking about when she would do scenes, she would say, I would do scenes and come home and my boyfriend wouldn't even want to kiss me. And I'm like, who the is that weird? Like, of course she didn't want to kiss you. You thought, really? You thought that was strange?
How does his dick taste?
Or the other one when I was listening to Alexis Fox when she came on here, and then also listening to Lena Rhodes, and they would go off and they would have these conversations where it's like, I'm dating a guy, and then he's dating his favorite star. I'm dating him for long-term commitment, but he's dating his favorite porn star. And that makes me mad. And I don't know why. It's like, of course, that's what happens. Just recognize what's going on. I used to want to work for the NBA as an announcer. That's not going to happen anymore because of my fucking show. There's consequences to be paid for everything that you do.
Go ahead.